Welcome to Fierce Fit Feminine and Other F Words, a place where women come to learn how to improve their health, beauty, body language, and communication. I'm Christine Brunelli, and I'm your host, and I'm thrilled about my guest today. I think you're going to love her. Tish Hale with Letitia Hale Photography is an Oklahoma sunflower coffee-loving gal now living in the greater Seattle area with her best friend, her husband of 17 years, and their preteen girls. She has a photography business, and she's had a camera in her hand since she was a teenager herself, and she's bringing you 3 tips that every photographer wants you to know before a photo shoot, and then some. Are you ready? Let's get started. Okay, Tish, I'm so excited you're here. Everyone heard how amazing you are in my intro and your bio, and I know they're eager to hear how to feel more prepared and what every photographer wants them to know when they go to a photo session. So this is juicy, and the details are going to be so fun for them. So have you always been a photographer? Tell me a little bit about your journey into this before we even get to the 3 things you want them to know.
First of all, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to do this.
Yeah.
I have not always been a photographer. Professionally, I've been doing it for 11 years, but I've always had a passion for it since I was a little kid. I remember even when I was about 13 years old, I remember asking my mom for pictures of me as a baby, and she didn't have any. Like I would guess like maybe 5 or 10. And that was disheartening as a 13-year-old, when you want to see what you looked like as a baby, see what your parents looked like, your grandparents and whatnot. And from then on, I just found myself with a camera all the time. If I was the one that was carrying a point and shoot 35 millimeter cameras that you have to send off to get printed.
Yes.
I was always the one with a camera, but I didn't really start learning about it until high school. And unfortunately, I didn't have confidence enough in myself to continue pursuing that until I was a bit older and after I had my own children. And it wasn't until I was about 31 and after having my first child, and I bought a DSLR, and I was taking pictures of her and posted some photos online, and someone was like, "Oh my gosh, you could be a professional." And that's all it took, is somebody else giving me the confidence. And I was like, I probably could. I should probably pursue this. Why don't I do it? Because I love it so much. And I love being able to create memories for people, for them to have for the rest of their lives to look back on, to share with their children, their grandchildren. I think it's super important.
Oh my gosh, this story, it touches me because I don't have a lot of pictures from when I was a baby or of my mom when she was a child. They didn't have cameras way back, right? Like that was a luxury. So I love that because your whole perspective on it is so cool. I love it, love it, love it. So now your specialty is what? What do you like so you sounds like you do family.
I do. My specialties are family, babies, and high school seniors. And I do touch a little on headshots and branding for businesses.
Okay. So tell me, what is your favorite? What's your absolute favorite? Because I've seen your photography.
Oh my gosh. I can't even pinpoint it because there's something special about each one. But if I were to really just say it would be newborns, because they change so much in the first month. It's incredible. And to be able to have the opportunity to capture these precious lives in the first 2 weeks after they're born is such an honor. And I love it. And then my second favorite is actually women, just in general, women. I love being able to photograph women because in the beginning, they're really, really scared and nervous. And then by the end, they're just so pumped up and they don't want to stop. And it's really exciting to see that their confidence grow throughout that session. And then being able to see them and their reactions with the final product is just, it's really wonderful. I love it.
So, we have a little bit of history. So, I'm all about empowering women to step into like their best self and have confidence. And I work a lot in body image,
Yes.
even though I don't talk a lot about body image now. But body image is a big piece. Do you think that's one of their biggest anxieties when they go to a photo session? Is that something that you say they don't have a lot of confidence? What is it? Is it the body image? Is it that they don't feel pretty? What do you notice as a photographer that they struggle with?
A lot of women won't say it outright, but I really do think that we as a society do struggle with our appearance and fear of judgment and like, oh my gosh, am I going to get this pose right? Is she going to help me pose correctly so I don't look like I've got 3 chins or I don't have rolls when I'm sitting down? Because as women, it's almost like we're trained to think that way all the time. And yes, I absolutely believe that it has a lot to do with image.
And you know what? That's what's out there in the commercial world, right? So we grow up as little girls seeing these perfect photos, even knowing they're airbrushed, knowing they're photoshopped, we still measure ourselves against it, right? We just do. And it takes a very harsh awakening to get to the point where you're like, I don't care. And I don't know, I'm sure as a photographer, you're familiar with Jenna Kutcher.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've loved her work where she actually shows her body. She's really working in body image right now, and she shows her rolls. And she doesn't hide it. And it does give us permission to relax a little bit. But at the same time, we want to put our best foot forward because we are judged on our photos in the first 3 seconds or so of whether we're likable and trustworthy. As women in business, I'm looking at your headshot right now on the Zoom call, and you're so inviting and kind and fun and relaxed. And we do make judgments on photos. So, there's this one hand where we're like, well, I don't like myself on camera, we beat ourselves up. But on the other hand, we do have a little bit of valid reason to want to put our best foot forward. And I think finding a photographer like you who understands what women wrestle with and how to do what you need to do to make them look their best is key.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, that's one of the points that I'm going to bring up today is making sure that you research your photographer and research their style and make sure it's a style that you want. And not only that, but their personality. I think that their personality will also help you. I mean, if you get along with that photographer, that person is going to help you relax and find that confidence that you need throughout your session.
Okay, so let's get into these 3 points. And I want to get into this first one because when you say, research your photographer, besides looking at their work on social media, what exactly are you saying? Like, do you like their style? If you haven't worked with them, you're not going to know their personality. You're just going to see the end result. Is it a series of emails? Is it a phone call? What do you experience as a photographer that you think would be a great way to vet someone to be your person?
Well, okay. So one of the points that I brought up is communicate with your photographer and research their style and make sure it's the style that you want. And with regard to that is style, meaning the way that they do their posing or the way that they edit their final product, because I think that does play a part in things as well. And what are the locations that they're using? And look at maybe even what are the families wearing, what is the individual wearing, et cetera. And then the communication side of it and getting to know your photographer. I mean, it can go different ways and it depends on the person, right? Like I'm referred to people all the time. A lot of my business is word of mouth. And I absolutely love that because my style is like so many other photographers, but nobody is Letitia. Nobody is Tish. And nobody else could be me. So the fact that somebody is referring them to me and I didn't have to put out something in marketing and whatnot. It says a lot about me as a person and a photographer, that they trust me, etc. But if it's not a referral from someone else and you did find me on Google or Facebook or what have you, I would absolutely expect that you would want to do a call with me just to, I don't know, get a feel of my energy and what I will bring to the table with regard to that. And sometimes it can be a little intimidating as the photographer. Oh my gosh, they want to talk to me. But at the same time, it gives me an opportunity to let them understand my personality. And it also helps me as the photographer understand their personality and what it is that they're looking for out of their session. And I think it's really important to not be shy about letting your photographer know what you want out of your session, especially after they've done the research and the style and whatnot. Go to your photographer's website and or Facebook page and say, I love what you did with this photo. Could you recreate it? We don't have to do it in the same outfits or the same background or whatever, but I want something like that. Like making sure that you keep that communication throughout the planning process, and then making sure that you're communicating throughout the session too. Ask to see the photos, to see them if they aren't showing them to you already.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You know, because I think once you see what your photographer is seeing, then you can go, oh my gosh, I need to lift my shoulders. I need to, I don't like how my shoulders are, or I don't like how I'm positioned in a way, and talk that through with your photographer. And that way they can see those things too. Because for me, honestly, Christine, when I see people, I find beauty about them. And sometimes it's hard for me I'm not going to see your insecurities. You know what I mean? Like, I think that you're beautiful exactly the way that you are. I mean, yes, I'm going to fix your hair. I'm going to make sure that you pull your shoulders back. You're going to lift your chin, all that other stuff. But I don't know if you got a good side or a bad side, because to me, you look great on all sides, right?
Right.
So making sure that you let your photographer know, do you have a good side or a bad side? Like for me, my good side is my left side. My bad side, I don't like that side of my style.
This is so good. So it's really important then that we communicate our insecurities. If we bet the photographer and go, okay, I'm really vibing with this person. And I just talked about this last week with someone. They don't like their teeth. So it's hard for them to smile. And I get that, right? They never had the money for braces. They're insecure. And so it's really something that we all struggle. It's not always just our size and our weight. There's so many different things that women nitpick. We nitpick ourselves, right? Apart. So I love this first point, to check out the photographer's work and to contact. And I'm going to ask a question before you share point two. Do you ever have a call with a potential, or have you ever experienced someone where you thought, I shouldn't have ever worked with this client. This is not a good fit?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So give me a little juicy story about that. Just, like, what is it that what is that tension? Can you describe it? Is it that they are like, do they ask too many questions? Do they ask for too many edits? Or is it just their personality in general? What is that like as a photographer?
Oh gosh, that's kind of a can of worms there.
I'm sure you've
Yes. I don't mind the questions. I really don't. I would prefer that you ask as many questions as possible, because I'm the type of person that I want to make sure that I'm communicating as much as I possibly can, because I have had problems in the past with clients where they didn't communicate anything enough to me, and they ended up essentially wanting something completely different than my quote unquote style of photography. I have it happen a lot in regard to like cake smashes. I know this is not has anything to do with individual shots, but a client may have a certain vision in mind, And if that client doesn't express it, I'm not going to be able to read minds.
Sure.
And, it wasn't until they got to the session and I thought I had gotten everything completely ready. I had all the props and everything ready, but we spent a half an hour adding more things and taking things out, even though I had sent photos and I thought that I communicated well enough. You want to make sure that before you come to any session, that you've gotten all the communication that you can with regard to planning for your session before you get there, because then now I've only got a half an hour to shoot.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be able to have a full hour of maybe, outfit changes and whatnot. And at this point in a half an hour, you could really only get maybe 2 outfit changes. And that's not fair to you. That's not fair to me as a photographer. So
it definitely happens. Now, is that one of your points? Is one of your points that anything about time, or should we move on to point 2? So you can tell us the second thing.
Okay. So I have so many tips, Christine. There's so many tips, but
okay.
Yes,
so
that could definitely be one of them. But another tip that I do want to talk about, which is really important, is for us women, especially if you're a mom and you're doing family session, or even if you are just doing a headshot session, you want to make sure you dress yourself first, especially when you're planning for a family session. You want to plan everyone's outfits around yours. And I say that because we're the reason why we're getting together to do these photos. Mom is the one that does this. So if it's a pattern, you want to try to pick colors from the pattern for everyone else to blend with yours. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that you feel good in that pattern / color. Mm-hmm. Like, I love myself in purple. It doesn't matter what color purple. I love it, especially when my hair is blonde.
Right. Uh-huh.
I love purple. I feel good. I feel sexy. I feel empowered and confident. And you want to focus on the colors that you feel good in. Okay. I've had it where, even from my own experience, where I dressed my girls first. By the way, I have 2 girls, a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, and they have been my subjects for a long time.
Yeah.
So they're sick and tired of mom taking pictures, but there has been times where, I get pictures of all of us as a family, and I end up dressing my daughters first, and then I dress myself last, and I end up in yellow, and I hate yellow and it looks disgusting, but I did it based on what everybody else was wearing.
Oh, this is such a good tip. Dress you first.
Yes. And part of that, I think it's really important to also spoil yourself in that respect. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you take time. I know this is really silly, but take time, shave your legs. Get your eyebrows waxed a couple days prior.
Yes, please.
All the things that make you feel sexy and confident, and even get scheduled to get your hair and makeup done. Yes, it's an extra expense, but it's a spoiled thing that you don't have to worry about on the day of the sessions, because you're going to be so stressed out trying to get everybody else together.
100%.
You just want someone else to do your hair and makeup.
Yeah.
And I think that to me is focus on mom first, focus on you, and get yourself spoiled before you get in there.
I love this tip so much. And my listeners know I owned a beauty salon. I sold it this year.
Yes.
But working with photographers for hair and makeup is what partially launched me into what I'm doing now online, helping women feel more confident when they need to show up in business for whatever it is they're doing. But it's not an expense that I feel like it should be budgeted in. In the Seattle area, It's an average ballpark. It depends on who you go to, but if you're not, I always ask this question of potential clients, do you have any idea of how much a full face makeup application costs? I'm always surprised when they say $300 because that's bridal.
Yeah.
Not a makeup application does not cost that much, right? It hovers anywhere in between 40 to 70, depending on who's doing it. But in our salon, for example, it was $100 for hair and makeup. Worth it. So
totally. 100% worth it. I have literally only done it one time, and I don't know why that I've only done it the one time. And the one time that I did it, they're some of my most favorite pictures, most favorite.
It's just, there's something different about having someone else apply your makeup as well, because I think they see things in our face that we don't. We look at our face in the mirror every day. We do the same makeup and routine all the time. And a makeup artist sees, just like you look at your subject before you take a picture and you see this beauty that they may not see. It's the same thing for a makeup artist. Exactly the same thing.
Absolutely. I would totally agree with that.
Yes. So I love this tip. So dress yourself first. And I am actually, I'm a certified image consultant. So I help women determine their body type and dress for their type, but also color matching. So choosing colors for your skin tone. And I really think that it communicates. It invokes emotion. And like you rubbing purple on you, I think it's so good for you to know that.
Yeah.
You wear a color, we can't be in black all the time, ladies.
Right. Right.
Okay. So before we go to the next tip that you have, is there a color, is black something that you say, please don't bring me a lot of black? Is there something that they should avoid when they're dressing? Is there something that doesn't translate well?
Yeah. So don't wear black. The only time you want to wear black is maybe if you go to a cocktail party or something like that. Especially if you wear black all the time, every day, do something fun. I feel like colors create excitement and their energy. And anytime I wear black or I wear grays or just really blah colors, I feel like I'm in a blah mood.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Things that I would definitely avoid are stripes. And this is partially my opinion, but at the same time, when I'm photographing stripes, they can come off as almost looking dancing on the screen or even in a print. It just doesn't look right. And some people think that long stripes elongate your body and make you look skinnier. No, it's too busy. I'm not a huge fan of stripes, and I'm not a huge fan of plaid either. I'm okay with plaid during the holiday season, because that's just part of it.
Right.
But any other time, I'm not a huge fan of it, especially for women. For men, it's okay. Just make sure that you're not using the really tight plaid stripes, if that makes sense. It's almost like your shirt looks like it's racing.
Okay. So it doesn't come off well in photos. You don't like
No.
Okay.
No. One more thing. Yellow and hot pink are horrible to photograph.
Oh, good to know.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Shades of yellow, certain buttery yellow, bright yellow.
Oh, like a bright yellow, like a buttery bright yellow. They can wash you out, and then bright pinks. They will, yellows and bright pinks. It will almost create what is the word that I'm trying to think of? Like a color cast onto your skin.
I see.
So your chin and neck will look bright pink or yellow. And then
interesting.
The rest, yeah. That just creates more work for the photographer in post. Yeah.
I never knew that. That's amazing. That's great feedback. I love it, love it, love it. Okay, white, just before we go on to your third tip, is white okay?
To me, I think white is okay. Unless, you haven't seen the sun for a while. But
hello, Seattleites.
Yeah. But maybe wear white, but maybe with a jacket over, or like a jean jacket, or even a blazer or something like that. But yeah, I think white is great.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially a dress. Oh my gosh.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that'd be beautiful.
I'm really loving this tip. I have so many questions for you. I have one more. Now women typically dress in sleeves that make them feel comfortable if they're self-conscious about their arms.
Sure.
But is there a difference as a photographer that you see, or anything that you think looks better on camera for sleeve length, sleeveless, short sleeve, 3/4 sleeve, full sleeve? Does it matter? Because I know some women will only be photographed in long sleeves no matter what. They do long sleeves because they think it's more professional. Do you have any suggestions or recommendations when it comes to something simple like that, just sleeve length?
I say you do what you feel confident in, because it will show
Okay.
in your pictures.
Okay.
And if you want to go sleeveless and you feel confident in that, do that. But if there's still insecurities about that, let your photographer know, and they will help pose your arms in a way that they're not tight against your body and they look bigger or funky or what have you.
Okay.
I tend to let clients just know whatever makes you feel good. Because if you're not going to feel good in it after I've suggested something, then it's not going to work. It just won't. I get that a lot with maternity clients, because, they're putting on weight to have a baby. So things are kind of filling out in all areas, right? A lot of women tend to stay away from the strapless dresses that I have. But I have strapless dresses. I have sleeved dresses. I have quarter sleeve dresses.
Mm-hmm.
But if the photographer is good and they've communicated with their clients, they will help pose them in a way that will help,
Yeah. Oh
with
my
the
gosh,
arms.
this is so good. I could stay on topic 2 forever. Okay, third tip. What is your third tip you want everyone to know?
Practice posing in the mirror before you come. I mean, it's
let's
just,
talk.
yeah.
How? What if you don't know? What do you mean by practice posing? Like your like hands on your hips, or do you mean your smile? What do you give us the whole?
All of it. So I like to, especially with high school seniors, I like to send them different pose ideas, and it's up to them to look at them and practice them in the mirror. Yes, practice your smile. Practice how you hold your hands or where you put your hands. The biggest thing that I get from people is, I don't know what to do with my hands. And it is like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with your hands either, too, sometimes. But especially if they're like not feeling confident about it. And, but that also comes into play with insecurities, because if you have somebody who is insecure about their body, they're not going to, and they might be a heavier set person, they're not going to want to put their arms across their chest or anything like that, because then, it will make them seem maybe a little bit bigger than they are. But I like to send my clients different pose ideas. I have put together a Pinterest board of different poses that they can go through. And I highly encourage them to send me Pinterest poses and other things that they have seen, and maybe looking through my portfolio, so that I have a good idea of what type of posing they would like me to help them with. But even for myself, literally just watch models. Like, how do they pose? Like, and it's just all about trying to build confidence in yourself before you come to the session. I do find that even though clients have practiced in the mirror, it does take a good 20 minutes before they start really feeling comfortable in front of the camera.
Interesting. 20 minutes.
Yeah, a good 20 minutes. That's mostly high schoolers. And I would say, adults too. The more you practice, the more you go, well, Tish, what about this? What if I did this? And then it's like, oh, wow. Oh, they actually practice, and they know what they look good in and what they don't, because they've looked at themselves in the mirror. Yeah, practicing in the mirror will help you so much with your confidence, and it won't, you won't look so static or, because you can practice those poses, or I can put you in a pose, and without even showing you, Christine, it's really hard to explain, but it's almost like everybody tenses up their shoulders, and their shoulders are so close to their ears because they're nervous and stressed and tensed. Even though I've like put their hand up on their chest and then their other hand at their elbow, they still look like super uncomfortable, but like, practicing in the mirror, but also like giving yourself a good, 20 minutes into the session, your shoulders start to drop and your head tilts. And I think it's super important to practice.
It is. Now, I know for boudoir shoots, ladies love those. And one of the photographer tricks for those, because let's face it, I mean, you're pretty much basically close to nude in those pictures, right?
Yep.
They give them mimosas or champagne,
yes.
To take the edge off. I mean, I don't know if that's something that would help. I mean, because I don't know what it would take to get to the point where you don't lose that. That first 20 minutes is, if your shoulders are up, those pictures are not, that's wasted, right? If they can come relaxed and have confidence in the beginning, then you have 20 more minutes of photos to choose from the photo shoot. Am I right?
Yes. But at the same time, that first 20 minutes, if you haven't really met the person, especially if you're doing a boudoir session, you want to be able to get to know that photographer so that you also feel comfortable, being in their presence and almost being half naked, basically. Yeah. As somebody who doesn't drink, I have to think of different ways to figure out how do I relax somebody. A lot of times, even with kids, I do this. When they first come to the session, we just talk. We talk and we go over the things that we're going to do today. This is where we're going. What did you guys do today? And what was the best part of your day, and what are you going to do later on in the evening? And that just kind of relaxes people. Mm-hmm. And for me, I have to find some sort of common ground with my client. Mm-hmm. And once I find that, then there's just this, relaxation that happens. And I will probably get some good pictures in the first 20 minutes. Not all of them are going to be great, but that's when I'm having conversation at the same time and helping them to relax.
But if they practice and take this third tip to heart, that first 20 minutes will be more productive.
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, that's so good. Okay. So I want to recap because I have a couple questions. So the first tip is do your homework, research the photographer, call them if you have to, email, all of that, right? That was the first.
And communicate everything.
Okay. How far in advance? Now, I know everybody's different, but I mean, if somebody is going to have headshots done, I mean, how much time should they give themselves to do homework on finding the perfect photographer or family photos, whatever it is? I mean, I know it depends on how busy the photographer is, but this stuff takes time. This isn't something you can say, I need pictures done next week. I think it's hard to wait that long. Am I right?
Yes. In that instance, you've kind of put yourself up against a wall to be able to kind of find somebody. And I guess at that point, you would almost want to rely on referrals or reviews online of the photographer. But I don't think that it would be a bad thing to still give that photographer a phone call just to be able to just kind of get a feel of how they are and how will be to work with them.
Yeah. And how booked out they are.
Yes. Yes.
I always, for example, for weddings in our beauty salon, if you get engaged, you should be finding your hair and makeup person 9 months out.
Yes.
That's something that books out. Wedding photographers book out, so it depends on the type of photographer you're looking for, but I know that these things take time. So if you're going to look for someone, definitely give yourself the time. So the second tip is dress yourself first before you dress anybody else.
Yes.
And don't wear bright yellow or hot pink.
Yeah.
That was part of that conversation. And get away from black if you can. And then the third tip was practice in the mirror, practice your posing. And I love all of these. So now I have a question, and this is maybe a personal question from your standpoint, but I noticed that some photographers edit their pictures, not just like the light, the exposure, the saturation, all of that, but like skin smoothing, tightening up a waistline, all of that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something? So I know for me, when I went to have photos done years and years and years ago, it was done automatically. Like they didn't even ask. They just smoothed out the wrinkles. I'm like, I look better in these photos than I do in real life. How do you do this? He's a magician. And then I realized, he was using Photoshop or some editor. Tell me about where, because this is something that we live in the world of editing. I mean, we do this, everything is smoothed and all of that. For women that are getting their picture taken, is it something that offends a photographer if they say, can we edit this and make me look a little bit smaller, smoother, whatever? Or should they just let it go? Is that something that photographer will volunteer? When you get to the photo shoot being over and you're actually working on the photos and you're cropping and doing all of your stuff that you do on the photography end, the editing as far as the woman herself, how do you feel about that? How should that be communicated, or should it even be a topic?
That's a really good question. I want to touch on that lightly in a sense, because there are some people that do have image issues.
Mm-hmm.
But for a photographer like me, I do have it in my contract that if you want more editing done than simply taking out pimples or food in the teeth, or maybe removing a bra strap that had fallen down or is peeking through a shirt or what have you. If you're wanting me to, quote unquote, slim you down or reshape something or swap a whole person out, then I can certainly do that for you. I just have an added fee, an hourly added fee to that. But for me and my editing style, because I want to make sure that I stay true to the person and the age that they're at, and the season that they're at in life, I stay true to just editing out anything that wouldn't be there in 2 weeks. So I've had multiple families come to me where, oh my gosh, my daughter has, she has acne and she's super embarrassed to even ask you, would you be able to remove those? And I'm more than happy to do that. But I do have a daughter who was born with a birthmark on her left eye, underneath her left eye, and her whole life, everybody is always asking, what did you do? Did you scratch yourself? And she's always had to explain. But the first time we ever did photos, I won't tell you what studio we went to, but they didn't ask me, and they completely removed that birthmark. And when I went back and let them know, they denied it. And that really upset me, because I was like, it's clearly on her face in real life, but where did it go in this picture? Mm-hmm. And that just, it upset me, because that's a part of my daughter and her journey. And I don't want to take that away from people unless they have asked me to do so.
That's so good. I think it's a really important conversation to have. And it didn't even dawn on me that it could be in your contract. So they would have a contract. It would show the edits that are included. Mm-hmm. I'm sure, I don't have the experience to do that stuff, but I'm sure it takes a long time.
It can, depending on what they're asking for. Yes.
Yeah. So it really does depend then. Some photographers will do it automatically, like you just described, and that could be offensive, or it could be a welcome change. So again, this might tie all the way back into tip 1, communicate.
Yes, exactly. Communicate. That's like number 1 importance.
Okay. I love that. I love. And a point, if someone, I want to roll this before we wrap it up. When women are doing selfies at home, because I'm sure you have a full studio set up, but there are probably times no one's taking your picture, right?
Yeah.
You're taking your own. And do you use a ring light?
I do.
Okay. If just for fun, just to end on a fun tip, if someone was taking their own photos at home, would you suggest a ring light or ambient light from a window? What's better?
Oh, both are really fantastic.
Really?
But I personally love that window light, but you got to be really strategic on what time of day, what type of window light it's going to be, because if it's like super bright at 3:00 in the afternoon and it's shining through the windows, you know, you're not going to want to sit there because you'll be squinting the whole time.
Yeah.
Or I would highly suggest putting filtered curtains up.
Oh, got it.
And that will help with the harsh light. But ring lights, those inventions, oh my goodness,
They're amazing.
they are so amazing. They make the pores on my skin shrink. It's like
It's like you're filtered, right?
Yes.
That's what I always say. You need a ring light because it does change. Like, I wish I could walk around with one all day because that's.
Yes, they are definitely miracles for sure. They're wonderful.
Really are. I'm so glad that we got to spend this time together. Tish, can you give our listeners a little pathway of how they can find you, look up your work? If anyone is in the greater Seattle area, she is available to be hired, but also maybe your Pinterest, anything that where you would want to direct someone to learn more about you. Where could they find you?
Absolutely. So my website is pretty long because my name is really long, but it's www.letitiaHalephotography.com, and it's LATISHAHALE.
Got it. And that will be in the show notes as well. I'll put that in the show notes.
Great. And you can also find me on Instagram, Letitia Hale Photography on Instagram, and Letitia Hale Photography LLC on Facebook. And I can even give you my phone number to reach out and call or text. And I would love to do a session and create some memories together.
Oh, so good. Thank you so much for being here. Great tips. I really appreciate you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
I feel like that conversation could have gone on and on because I have so many more questions. I would like to bring her back for another episode just to talk about color and makeup and posing and all the questions that we have before we go to our own photo session. You can find more information about Tish's business in the show notes if you live in the greater Seattle area and you want to look her up and maybe hire her. And while you're there, I have a link to the ultimate checklist for getting yourself camera ready or video ready if you ever have a photo shoot. All of the things that you need to knock off the list and when to do them, and the things to avoid, like skip the salty foods about 3 days before. Things like that. All of everything you need to know, it's at the link and it says checklist. All you have to do is tap it and download that checklist. Thanks for being here. If you're not subscribed, tap subscribe so that you get notified the next time a new episode is released. And until then, have a fierce, fit, feminine, and fabulous day.